Oh, the microphone's on. Yes, Bobby.
Just looking at this frequency here, and I thought, oh, please coming up any minute. Yeah, I'm off to bed. I've had enough. You were just about ready to come on there. VK36, Joe, VK38.
Yep, no worries, mate. Have a good sleep. We'll maybe catch up over the weekend.
Yeah, no worries. I've got to tell you a story about poor old Kevin. Long story. I bloody pingled his car, and the car came on second best. So kangaroo not too well either. All right, see you later. Okay, 3 A's and clear.
Oh, Kevin's okay, is he?
Yeah, no, he's fine. Broken heart attack. The cars are right off.
Yep, hitting a kangaroo will always do that. Bloody things. All right, catch you later, mate.
Evening. G'day, young Dennis.
Oh, where are we here? Oh, plugged it. Good evening. This is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, VK3 EKH, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast, coming to you from the studios of VK3 CSJ in Narre South. Very pleasant good evening to everybody that's tuning in tonight, for the first time as well, perhaps, on this 17th of May. And all to the YouTubers as well, providing the stream stays good. We're broadcasting on prime frequency of 3541 kilohertz in the 80 metre amateur radio band, and also via the Melbourne television repeater, VK3 RTV, digital channel 1. Good evening to all the viewers. And also via the stream, so if you tune into YouTube, type in VK3CSJ and turn the volume down, at least you'll get the vision side of it while you're listening here 20 seconds later. There's also a Discord feed as well, provided by Richard, VK3VRS. So if you have Discord installed, just go to or type in Astronomy Chat Room, look for Astronomy Chat Room, and the ASV, and the video stream. That's one way of looking at it in a little bit more real time. That's a direct feed off the repeater, actually. Hopefully the repeater will hang in there too. The repeater's been having a few hiccups over the recent weeks. So we'll see how we go. I think 80 metres will be the most reliable side of things tonight, at the moment anyway. My third camera has decided to just fail at this moment. I don't know why, but there it is. Alright, let's just see if my main camera is working. Yep, okay, there it is. Well, wasn't it a good time last weekend for those that might have gone out to look at the aurora? Quite a lot of activity there, both in the media and on the media and the various media pages, i.e. Facebook and other places, I suppose. Certainly for me, it was the first time that I'd ever seen an aurora. I had a local ham radio friend of mine, Tony, VK3VAT, who just lives less than a kilometre away from me on the other side of Cranbourne Road, giving me a call. And around about 8 o'clock Saturday evening, I was pretty much settling in, actually, last Saturday. Didn't think to go outside, but there's Tony telling me, Clint, go out now. You can see the aurora. I can see it here. It's right overhead, mate. Head outdoors right now. And you're joking? Nah, you can see it. So, so I went straight out through the back door and looked up, and sure enough, there was a beautiful crimson glow in the sky, which was actually varying in real time. You could actually see this change in intensity. But my view of the south is not so good. This crimson reddy glow in the sky was definitely up to 50-60 degrees in the sky, and I do have an image here, but it's not my photo, but it looked similar to this for those watching the visions. It looked very, very similar to what's on the screen right now. That's not my shot, but if you can imagine something like that, that's pretty much what I was seeing, but more overhead, and I was mightily impressed. I was mightily impressed. But having said that, the interesting thing about this was that I did take some photographs using the mobile phone, and the Samsung S25 Ultra that I have has a what's called a night vision mode, and I was experimenting with that, thinking that's the thing to use, that's the mode to use, and I'm facing the camera up into the sky, and I could not see anything on the mobile phone. Interestingly enough, the camera was picking up stars. I could see stars, but not the not this colour that was in the sky that you could see by eye. So I thought, well, the camera's not working. I mean, it's working, but it's not picking up the aurora, which was a bit disappointing. But then I reviewed the images while talking to Tony. I was still talking to Tony on the phone in the same time as taking pictures and looking at this amazing sight. And I decided to review the pictures, and blow me down if the resolved images from the mobile phone did not show the aurora, i.e. it did. It was like what you're seeing on the screen right now for those watching YouTube and TV Repeater. It was just there, and I said to Tony, you would not believe this, but I have actually photographed the aurora perfectly well. It is the mobile phone. The camera has the sensitivity to pick up the very faint glow in the sky, and that's why a lot of the images taken by people of the aurora last weekend proved to be very successful for everybody, and for those that took magnificent pictures, particularly down in Tasmania. The Tasmanian skies must have been on fire with the aurora last Saturday. It was quite a stunner. So that's a box ticked for me. I have now finally seen the aurora, but only just a smidgen of it, because honestly, what you can see of the aurora in other places of the world, and particularly in Tasmania too, is mind-blowing. The colours that are in there are just stunning, and if you're able to see the majority of these colours in real time, it must be a really mind-blowing experience to actually see this effect moving in the atmosphere. All these charged particles that are releasing these interesting colours as oxygen atoms get ionised and stuff like that. So our sun has been particularly busy this last week or so. They're talking about this 20-year thing, about being another 20 years before we see such a thing. I'm not really sure where they're getting that from, but the solar, we're still reaching solar cycle 25. The peak of it, maxima, solar maxima, is still to come, and we're still on the 11 o'clock cycle part of the 11 o'clock part of the clock of where the sunspot maxima is, if you know what I mean, if you can appreciate what I'm trying to say. And so the peak of it we're still probably looking at about 6, 10, 12 months away. And then there's the downside of it. So, we've got another couple of years of solar activity ahead of us. So there's no reason to think that we're not going to be seeing any more auroras of this nature. It just needs to have a few solar flares become a little bit active and erupt, coronal mass ejections, and we'll get the same thing. Anyway, I'm going to replay the solar. Our Tamith has produced a 20-minute video this week. Her prediction was out to Tuesday, I think, so it's historic. I'm only going to play it for historic because what she released was basically covering last weekend and what was going to happen. So from her point of view, it was interesting as to what had occurred and what was about to occur. So it's normally she produces a 10-minute video, but she went out to 20 minutes. So 20 minutes will give me a nice break. But I'll play that anyway in a short while. So you can sit back and listen to Tamitha's dulcet tones. But apart from all that, last Saturday was good, and there was some suggestion that Sunday night was going to be the same, but it was a bit of a fizz, unfortunately, and but it was likely to occur. These 3 consecutive wave fronts that were compressing the Earth's magnetosphere had come and gone, and the residual effect of that was still lingering around. I actually went out at 3 a.m. Sunday morning just to have another look around, and there was still a residual glow in the sky, but not as great as it was a few hours earlier. So I'm glad to say that I'd finally seen the Aurora Australis. And if you are onto Facebook, again, I know I mentioned this last Friday, I think, but there is a dedicated Facebook page to the Aurora. It's called Aurora Australis Tasmania. Aurora Australis Tasmania. Just type in that into your Facebook search engine, and you'll find it. And it's dedicated to people that see aurora in real time. If there's any auroras occurring, they will post pretty much straight away, and it'll keep you pretty much up to date about what's going on. And the fact that it's titled Tasmania doesn't mean that it's just dedicated to Tasmania. It's Australia-wide aurora reporting page, Facebook page, and it also includes the rest of the world for that matter. But it's mostly focusing on auroras seen here in Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, or Antarctica if there's anybody down there on Facebook in Antarctica. All right. So yes, it was quite a time last week, wasn't it? I mean, it was in the news like you wouldn't believe. So it's good that when astronomy gets a hit like that, and the thing I heard was that come Sunday night, when even the media was saying that you were going to get a chance of seeing the aurora on Sunday night, it actually brought out quite a lot of people down to the beach, only to be turned away because that was disappointing. They didn't get a chance to see any of the aurora. It wasn't. They missed it. They missed the main show. So anyway, but that's it's not to say that it's not going to happen again. It will, and I will almost guarantee that it will occur again in a short period of time. So, like I say, keep an ear to the sites that give you the predictions there, like spaceweather.com. Spaceweather.com will certainly keep you also abreast of what's potentially happening too, even though it mostly focuses on the Northern Hemisphere, but pretty much what happens in the Northern Hemisphere also happens down in the Southern Hemisphere when it comes to aurora. Just briefly, for those tuning in for the first time, this broadcast is conducted on behalf of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, the ASV, which has been around since 1922, and we have well over 1,600 members. And membership of the society is open to all persons with an interest in astronomy. There's also every month around Wednesdays, the second Wednesday of every month, there's a meeting which public can come into and sit in, and it's free to visitors to wander in. It's the hall at the Mulia Hall in Burwood Avenue in Melbourne, near the Melbourne Observatory, and the meetings kick off at 8 p.m. at the National Herbarium opposite the Shrine of Remembrance, and parking is available in the adjacent streets without a problem. Admission is free, and of course visitors, as I say, are most welcome. Some of the privileges of membership include the use of the library, extensive library. It very much is an extensive library. As I've said in the past, I get bowled over when I walk into the library, which is a rarity, but sometimes I walk in through the doors, and the smell of aging books is just enough to make your mind go dizzy. I love the smell of burying my nose into a book. When I fall asleep, the book falls on my face. There's also the monthly magazine, or quarterly magazines are quarterly. Anyway, ASV's magazine called Crux, containing articles, observing notes and the like, free provision of the Astronomical Yearbook, which is kind of like an almanac, published by the ASV, which is this book here. That's what they refer to as the yearbook for those watching TV. It's quite a decent publication, and if you're into doing optical astronomy, that's it has a lot of information for optical astronomers. So, and I'm about to get into all that very soon when I get my. For those that are waiting for my dome to be built, it hasn't been done yet, so don't ask. I have to get off my ass and get out there and flatten the deck that the dome is going to be on. The scope dome requires absolute accuracy for its flatness, for its rotating ring to rotate perfectly well, and unfortunately the builder didn't quite do that, so I've got to try and correct that, but that's another story. You've all heard it. I'm ad-libbing here to some degree. Regular Society Club night meetings are held at the Melbourne Observatory in the Ellery Suite. That's our new club room. Burwood Avenue, opposite the Shrine of Remembrance. Members are encouraged to use the Society's instruments located there. The instruments include a 508mm equatorial reflector and also a number of smaller reflectors. Members are encouraged to use the Society's country property located north of Heathcote, some distance north of Heathcote. There are a range of instruments available there for members to use as well, some that require training if you're going to use them. Also located on the site is a fully steerable radio telescope, an 8.5 metre Kennedy dish. Members are also encouraged to make and use telescopes, and of course help and advice on matters like that are provided willingly by various section directors. Instrument making is only one of the number of common interest activities catered for within the Society. Other areas of interest that members can participate in, including deep sky, astrophotography, lunar planetary observing, auroral would have been really up and going too. A meteor, comet, radio, astronomy section, computing, cosmology, astrophysics, historical studies, and astronomy in general. Now, all that information can be gleaned from the ASV website at www.asv.org.au. That's www.asv.org.au. But if you wish, you can always send a letter to the Secretary, address it to the Secretary, Astronomical Society Victoria, GPO Box 1059, Melbourne, Victoria 3001. ASV will conform to all government health directives. ASV events may be required to be cancelled, moved or postponed, depending on circumstances like fire ban. That's what I was trying to think of. Fire ban days. Things like that. So there it is. That's your little bit of taste of the ASV. Like I say, it's been around since 1922 and it's been doing some great things. We've got lots of things happening up at the Dark Sky site north of Heathcote. There are now 3 domes, I think, that are in a position by members to be able to access for remote astronomy. So you don't have to be there. You can put yourself down on a register to use the remote observatory if you know what you're doing, or I'm sure there is some sort of procedure for operating those domes that has been written up, and so it's a keen. I'm not sure what telescopes are in those domes, but suffice to say that they all been tested and work very well. Glad to see the stream is still hanging in there. Okay, yes, I also have an email address, so if you wish to send signal reports for tonight's session, vk3ekh@gmail.com, vk3ekh@gmail.com. What's the other one? Discord. Yes, I've mentioned Discord. Right. Okay, well, I think that's it for tonight. No, haven't quite finished yet. Let me see. I note that, there is a new episode podcast on astrophys.com, and I might see if I can grab a hold of the audio recording of this and play it maybe next week, because it looks interesting. Dr. Marcus Lower on pulses stripped bare. I've got a caption here of that. I'll bring that up. And what we have here is Brendan says that today we're speaking with Dr. Marcus Lower, who is a postdoctoral fellow at Australia's National Space Agency, the CSIRO. His research primarily focuses on pulsars, rapidly rotating neutron stars that emit beams of electromagnetic radiation from their magnetic poles. He's the principal investigator of a pulsar timing project which uses the CSIRO's Parkes radio telescope to understand the long-term behavior of neutron stars and how they can be used to study the interstellar medium. Marcus is lead author in a first published Nature astronomy paper using the 64-metre Parkes Mariang dish. Mariang must be the Aboriginal name for that area. Parkes Mariang dish, and also the monster 76-metre Lowell telescope at Jodrell Bank Observatory in Manchester to reveal really mystifying behaviours of pulsar XTE J1810-197, which have never been anything remotely like this before, which we have never seen anything remotely like this before. So that's the latest podcast on astroviz.com, and it is podcast number 192, published on or released on the 15th of May, last Wednesday. So if you can't wait till next week, go to astrophys.com. That's astrophiz, P-H-I-Z, astrophys.com, and you'll see it straight away. Dr. Marcus Lower, pulsar stripped bare. And I can see that I've just dropped out of the repeater, TV repeater. It's just gone off air, so my apologies to those that were watching the repeater, but it's disappeared from the screen. So my YouTube should be still okay. I'll just check that. Yep, I'm still hanging on YouTube, so the vision factors are still there on YouTube. I wonder that I do have a way of being able to possibly fix this repeater, and I'm just going to see what happens if I can do this manually from here. This might, I don't know if it's going to work, but I'll just see what happens. Hang on, let me turn the mic down here for a minute. Okay, now that tone, I just sent a reset tone to the repeater. That may have done something, it may not have, I don't know. It perhaps did. I'm back up on the screen again. Well, blow me down. If that may or may not have worked, I don't know, but there I am, I'm still there. I've got to remember to do that again. Gee, what do you think of that, Richard? Anyway, so there it is. Dr. Marcus Lower, pulses stripped bare. Okay, thanks Brendan for that, and if I can request a download of that, that'll be fantastic. Alright, time is 10:24. Let's see what I was going to talk about. There was something else here. Oh yes, okay. How old is each planet in our solar system? Robert Hawke of Canal Winchester in Ohio, asks this question: how old is each planet? Do we know the order in which the planets in our solar system were formed? And they've got a picture of Jupiter here just for the sake of the article, so I'll bring that up on the screen because I brought it across anyway, or did I? Maybe I didn't. God. Oh, I thought I did. No, I didn't. Let's see if I've got it there. Image of Jupiter. There it is. I just didn't bring it across. Wonderful. Alright, here is Jupiter if you haven't seen it before. And I'll bring up my little insert. There I am. So this little article is talking about age of planets. Estimating ages of specific events is one of the most difficult problems in astrophysics. While we have a precise and probably accurate age of the solar system, we do not have precise ages for each planet. The solar system's age comes from radiometric dating of rock samples from Earth, the Moon, and meteorites. If an isotope of one element decays into an isotope of another element, then measuring the ratio of both to a stable isotope of either element lets you work backwards to determine how many half-lives have passed since the initial concentration. One half-life is the time it takes for half of a radioactive parent isotope or radionuclide to decay into its product or daughter isotope, with half or the parent remaining. Lots of stuff in brackets here. This one only works for situations where elemental concentrations do not get mixed up between different material samples, e.g. the system is closed. Adding in fresh material with different initial values of radiogenetic material, or indeed bulk elemental composition differences, will invalidate the analysis. One has radioactive elements of the right half-life, and these elements are in large enough concentrations to measure. Using this technique, we find that the absolute age of Earth is 4.54 billion years old, with an uncertainty of only 1%. We can also determine relative ages of various rocks using extinct radionuclides, such as aluminium 626, which decays into magnesium 26. Those half-life is so short, 0.72 million years, that its original concentrations are now unmeasurable. The clock is unusually set by the initial concentrations found in calcium aluminium rich inclusions, or CAIs. The first solids in the solar system, in meteorites, and we can measure ages relative to those. This technique gives relative ages good to 500,000 years for rocks from the first 10 million years of the early solar system, such as meteorite fragments or interplanetary dust grains. Other isotope systems with different half-lives can be used to date specific events, like the formation of Earth's core, which is related to the giant impact that formed the Moon. Our best guess is that the gas giant planets, Jupiter and Saturn, for example, formed first from the gas-rich disk that accompanied the formation of the proto-Sun. Of the planets, Jupiter and Saturn's compositions are most like the Sun. However, even they have higher concentrations of heavy elements beyond hydrogen and helium on the periodic table compared to our Sun. This is evidence that even early on, solid materials that formed from these heavy elements like silicon, oxygen-rich and carbon-rich dust, as well as ices that form at various distances from the Sun, play an important role in planet formation. We suspect that the ice giants Uranus and Neptune formed next, because they have gas to dust ratios immediate between the big gas giants and the rocky terrestrial planets, i.e. Mercury, Venus, Earth and Mars. Uranus and Neptune likely formed just as the gas disk that accompanied the forming Sun was dissipating, on a timescale of less than 10 million years. Next to form were the rocky inner planets. While their initial building blocks probably came together quickly to form planetary embryos, it took between 10 million to 100 million years after the gas disk was gone for these building blocks to further crash into each other and form the terrestrial planets we know today. We can estimate the time since a terrestrial planet's surface was last reset, e.g. globally altered, such as by lava flows, based on crater counting. But those times are not formation ages, and finally, the dwarf planets in the outer solar systems are still growing slowly. Nailing down this sequence of events is of consequence for exoplanetary systems as well, which we can study with both theoretical models and observations. A Jupiter-like gas giant that forms early beyond the ice line, where it is cold enough for violates like water, ammonia and carbon dioxide to exist as ices, probably has a strong impact on the delivery of water and other materials to potentially habitable planets. The evolution and final architecture of planetary systems have a lot to tell us about how planets form, as well as the prospects for life in the universe. And of course, we still have a great deal to learn when it comes to our own solar system as well. Alright, well that was an interesting read. The question was, how old is each planet? Do we know the order in which the planets in our solar system formed? I guess the question was answered, but suffice to say, if you were interested in catching up on that, you'll have to go to astronomy.com and look under the news tab. Actually, they've got a tab called Ask Astro, and I always look under that because Ask Astro does have these interesting little questions that people ask, and it's only a very short read, which is what I particularly like. So thank you to astronomy.com for that one. You're tuned to... Oh, no, I don't have to do that. I've got this I can do. I've got a whole lot of recordings down here. I keep forgetting this. All right. Now, I don't know. I have to flick a button for this. Hang on a sec.
You're tuned to VK3EKH, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast coming to you from the studios of VK3CSJ in Narre Warren South.
Dear, I'll give you the timing right on that one. All right. Yep, I think there might have been a bit too much audio going on that too. I thought I had that level right, but there it is. Thanks to Ralph for that. And there's a few more I'll throw in throughout tonight. Next. All right, what time is it now? 10:34. Oh, look, if I'm going to play Timothy's thing, I better do that now because it really does go for 20 minutes. So let me just queue up good old Tam. And we'll see how we go with this. Where's my video? Oh, there it is. Okay, all right. Let's see. Okay, this is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel. Stand by for Timothy Scove's solar weather report, particularly dealing with the solar events of last weekend.
We have a solar storm train of 7 solar storms on their way to Earth, with the promise of lots of aurora and a reminder of the importance of space weather. Those stories and more in this week's Spotlight. Space space weather this week remains in high activity mode. As we take a look at our Earth-facing disk, we had been paying attention to region 3663. This had been the big X-flare player earlier in the week. It had been firing lots of different X-class flares and other big flares, but it had not been giving us any Earth-directed solar storms. However, as we watched region 3664 and 3668, once they crossed center disk, right around where that hot longitude was, as expected, they started to grow. In fact, region 3664 began to merge with region 3668 late on the 7th and into the 8th, and that is when all the fireworks really began to start. In fact, right about the 8th, you see this region right in here began to fire off a solar storm, and then it fired off another solar storm back to back right here. Those were two storms, and then it launched one more storm right here. And if we take a look in coronagraphs, you can actually see the first solar storm right here. This is the one that's going mainly southwest of Earth, but that's still partly Earth directed. So that's storm one. Then shortly after that, right on its tail, you see a big halo. This is a totally Earth directed solar storm. That was the first big X-class flare from region 3664. And then shortly thereafter, we had yet another halo. Bam! Right there. That is now storm number 3 that's headed toward Earth, and yet this region was not done. As it continued to move, we actually got more activity from it, but not before it fires off a filament right here off to the west, slightly northwest of Earth, but at this nearly the same time we got yet another big flare from this region. So we have yet another 1-2 from solar storms, and then we had a short one that came after that as well. But take a look in coronagraphs. Here is the partial halo from this filament eruption that's going mainly to the east of Earth. So what is that? Storm number 4 now. And then shortly thereafter, look, there's another big halo. So that is now storm number 5. But we're still not done. In fact, as we continue this ride, you'll actually see the part of that filament or part of that eruption pop off right there. Now, as we move into the 9th, we're going to have yet 2 more big solar storms. We have a big X-class flare coming up right about here. Bam! Right there. That's a big X-class flare. And with that, we have yet another big halo. This is storm number 6. So if you keep them counting, we've got a ton of solar storms all being rapid fired at Earth. And then shortly thereafter, as this region rotates a little bit further to the west limb, you see yet a bam right there, another solar storm launch. And this one has yet another halo. You can see it. It looks like we're finally getting to a point where this region's going to be rotating basically out of the Earth strike zone here soon. So hopefully that's just 7 solar storms. We're not going to get any more Earth-directed solar storms from this region. Can't promise that, but there'll be more flanking blows rather than big direct hits. Now, thank goodness for that, but despite that, we still have other regions on the east limb. If you recall, we have some far-sighted regions that are going to be rotating into Earth view. In fact, as we take a look at our JSOC HMI helioseismology far-sighted viewer, do you guys remember regions 3645, 3654, and region 3644 and 48. These are regions that were giving us big solar flares about 2 weeks ago, and they have all survived their far-sighted passage. You can see in the gold here, this is the far side of the sun, and they're about to rotate back into Earth view. The dark regions show where those sunspot clusters are. So get ready, because we're going to be having possibly more activity to returning into Earth view, giving us more big solar flares and possibly the chance for big solar storms again. So even with region 3664 going off of the east or the west limb, we're still going to be having quite a bit of activity. So aurora photographers, get ready, and amateur radio operators and emergency responders, expect that you're going to still have issues on Earth's day side with those big radio bands, because those big solar flares just aren't going away. Now, taking a closer look at regions 3664 and region 3668, we haven't seen sunspot clusters like this in quite some time. Now, as we watch these regions rotate across the disk, you can see a blow up of them here in the inset. And as they pass through this hot longitude that was right about center disk, as expected, things started to change. In fact, you can watch this new growth emerging right here between region 3664 and 3668. And by about the 8th, this region had really kind of fused together in this really magnetically complex region. And this is right about when region 3664 began to take over. You can see lots of flare activity. This is when we started getting the big solar storm launches, as well as the big solar flares, including big radio bursts up into the gigahertz range. And this is likely going to continue because this region is showing no signs of slowing down. In fact, even as we get to late on the 9th, you can still see a ton of complexity in this region. It is still firing off solar flares as well as solar storms. So this region is likely going to survive its far side passage. It's also likely going to be shooting off solar flares and solar storms on the sun's far side. And in about 2 weeks, we could very well easily see it again, and it may still be a big solar storm and solar flare producer. So we're going to be keeping our eyes on it, and amateur radio operators and emergency responders and even you aviators, this region is definitely one that you got to keep your eyes on. And if the look of that active region cluster did not get your attention, this surely will. This is our M-flare dayside radio blackout threat meter, and look at this thing. As we move in, you see all these different flares, big M flares, big X-class flares. This is from region 3663, but as we move into the 8th, this is right when region 3664 began to take over, and look at the noise floor for the X-ray flux. It has climbed so high that the noise floor is sitting at the M-flare level. This is at an R1 radio blackout level. This is without solar flares. So you amateur radio operators on Earth's dayside, if you're wondering why you can't get anything on the dayside radio bands, this is why. Our noise level is sitting at an R1 level radio blackout. We have popped either at or very near the R3 level radio blackout threshold at least 7 times in the last 48 hours, topping it off especially with an X4.5 flare. And this is the flare that actually caused a radio blackout and with a huge radio burst in it that had a ton of energy in the VHF range. So you aviators, this could definitely affect your backup radio communications, especially if you're flying over the poles. And it also had energy up in the 800 to 1 gigahertz range, and that becomes really close to those ADS-B transponders as well as to GPS and GNSS receivers. So amateur radio operators as well as aviators and anyone using GPS, if you're on Earth's dayside, you definitely could be affected by this. So you're going to have to deal with it over the next 36 to 48 hours before this region begins to rotate to the sun's far side, and hopefully these types of radio bursts will begin to go away. And now returning to those Earth-directed solar storms, in order to get better details on which storms are going to be direct hits and which ones are flanking blows, we take advantage of the full view of the SOHO-LASCO coronagraph as it's viewed from Earth. And you can see that first solar storm. This is the one that was launched mainly southwest of Earth, but on its heels will be a full halo that goes all the way around the sun. That will be solar storm 2. You'll see it, boom, right there. This is the full halo. That is storm number 2. This storm was the one that was launched with the very first X-class flare from region 3664 and kind of really set the gears in motion. Shortly after that, we get yet another halo. You can see that right there. That is solar storm number 3. So that's the second halo that's going to be a direct hit at Earth. Then shortly thereafter, we get that filament launch. This is storm number 4. It's mainly going northeast of Earth. But right after that, you'll see yet another halo. This is storm number 5. And that means it's the third halo, the third solar storm that's going to be a direct hit, or looks like it's going to be a direct hit at Earth, and it's going to be very impactful. Then it's followed by that solar storm launched during the X4.5 flare. This was probably the strongest of the bunch, and this one looks also like it's going to be a direct hit. So this is now storm number 4. 4 that is a direct hit at Earth, but a total of 6 storms thus far. And then we finally get the caboose, boom, right there. This is storm number 7. You can see it's no longer it's what we call an asymmetric halo. It looks like it's a bit on the weak side. So luckily it seems like this one will be a bit of a weaker punch. And it also shows that region 3664 is now rotating out of the Earth's strike zone. So hopefully this will be the last of the storms we'll have to deal with before this region rotates to the sun's far side. Now, as we take a look at our solar storm prediction model, Enlil, this is NOAA's version of the model. The top panel's density, the bottom panel's velocity, and you're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. And you're going to see 4 solar storms that are launched in this version of this run. These 4 storms are the 4 halos, the 4 direct, what we consider direct hits, back to back to back to back. And hopefully you can see them as I set this in motion. Now, as you watch them coming out, I'll stop them right here. They're already beginning to merge in this model. And this is where we have to be very careful, because this model doesn't take into account how the magnetic field of these solar storms really interacts with each other. These storms are not merging into one big storm, even though the model shows it will. We couldn't run the model faster than real time if we had to really include all of the real life details. So we do the best we can. As you see these storms merging into a single storm, you need to take this with a grain of salt, because these storms really are just going to be coming back to back to back. They're going to compress each other, but they're not going to merge into a single storm. So as we take a look at the impact time, NOAA is expecting the storms to arrive either late on the 10th or early into the 11th. And you see most of the storming will be done on the 11th, but likely because these storms don't really merge, they're going to be spread out, and we're probably going to get some storming into the 12th, possibly even into the 13th before things calm down. Now, as we switch to our NASA version of the model, again, you're looking down at the sun from the North Pole with Earth being off to the right. You're seeing those same 4 big halo storms being modeled here. And as they come out, once again, you see them beginning to merge. This is not what the storms will actually do. They're just going to compress each other quite a bit, but they are going to be individual storms, just all compressed together. NASA shows the initial impact will be a little bit earlier than what NOAA is predicting. That is on the evening of the 10th. Likely things again are going to start really ramping up on the 11th, however, and the storming will continue easily into the 12th and into the 13th before things calm down. So aurora photographers, it doesn't matter where you are. If the magnetic field is oriented the right way, you're going to get to see some decent aurora deep into mid-latitude, so definitely keep your batteries charged. Switching to our moon, we are now coming out of a new moon on our way to a first quarter. And by the 15th, the moon will be about 50% illuminated. So you night sky watchers, if you want to catch those dim objects in the sky, and I don't know, maybe some aurora, well, now is your perfect chance. Now, switching to our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, we are anticipating that train of solar storms that's on its way to Earth. It should hit basically starting around the 11th. So it should be no surprise that we're going to be storming in through the weekend and possibly into the early part of next week before things calm down. At high latitudes, NOAA is expecting severe storm conditions. In fact, they have about a 90% chance of severe storm conditions at a G4 level. And this is going to continue in through the 12th. Likely things will begin to calm down a little bit. We could see G3 levels on the 12th, and then things will continue to calm down as we move into early next week. Aurora photographers, if you're at high latitudes, of course you could get aurora if that magnetic field is oriented the right way. In fact, you might even have to look southward for the aurora. But for those of you who are concerned about the resilience of our power grids and you want to help, you can voluntarily turn down your power consumption, especially once the sun goes down, because that's when those big currents end up becoming a problem for us at nighttime. So it gives the power utility companies a little bit more leeway to handle some of those currents from that big solar storm that's hitting. And don't worry at all about aurora if you're seeing them overhead. That is just our Earth kind of blowing off steam and dissipating the energy from these solar storms. It's completely normal. Now, as we switch to mid-latitude, Well, we are still looking at solar storm conditions. In fact, we are still expecting severe storm conditions, but this time we're going to expect a G4 level, but only about a 50% chance of hitting a G4 level. Then we're going to bump down to likely major storm conditions, but we still have about a 25% chance of a severe storm on the 12th. And again, things will calm down shortly after that. So aurora photographers, if you're at mid-latitudes, yes, absolutely, you could get some aurora. Likely not as many issues when it comes to power consumption, but still the same thing goes for those of you at mid-latitudes. If you'd like to like to help during periods like this, especially if the storming continues over a long period of time, like 24 to 48 hours at these high levels, then yes, if you would like to voluntarily reduce your power consumption at night, I'm sure the power companies will thank you. And now switching to our solar flare and dayside radio blackout outlook over the coming week, we are sitting around the mid 200s for solar flux, and this is mainly because of region 3664 that is going to be rotating to the sun's west limb in about 3 days, but likely the solar flux is going to stay above 200 because we're going to have new regions rotating into Earth view. Nonetheless, over the next 3 days, we're expecting to have severe noise on the radio bands. This is because we have about a 95% chance of M-class flares. This is at the R1 to R2 level radio blackout, and we have even up to about a 50% chance of X-class flares at an R3 level radio blackout. Over the next 3 days, you'll notice that we'll begin to die down a little bit as we move into the early part of next week. The noise will begin to go down to the moderate range. Thank goodness for that. That's because region 3664 will finally be disappearing from sight. So amateur radio operators and emergency responders and you aviators, well, just kind of hang in there over the next couple days and things will get better on the dayside radio bands. And you GPS users also stay vigilant, especially near dawn and near dusk. And now switching to our radiation storm and polar aviation outlook over the coming week, we are sitting at D1 normal range right now. This is at flight level 360 for you aviators. It's also the S0 level, but our radiation storm levels are a bit elevated right now. And this is because we have that big solar storm train of events that are on their way to Earth. Likely this bit of solar storm radiation will rise a little bit. We could even see the D2 minor range right around the 11th when the storms hit, and that might even bump us up to the S1 level for a radiation storm. We have about a 50% chance, that's what NOAA's giving us, about a 50% chance of an S1 to S2 level radiation storm over the course of the 11th, but then things will likely begin to calm back down as these solar storms wash over us and begin to clear out. So you aviators and flight crew and you high-risk passengers as well as you frequent flyers, please take this into consideration in your flight plans. And you aviators also be sure to check those ICAO advisories often because these conditions can change quite quickly. So the space weather this week is extremely active. We have 7 Earth-directed solar storms that should be hitting us starting late on the 10th, early into the 11th, and could definitely bring aurora deep into mid-latitudes and cause extended storming, possibly at the G4 level. So aurora photographers, you're definitely going to get a show if that magnetic field orientation is the right way. And don't be concerned if you see aurora overhead. This is just our Earth dissipating that energy from that solar storm. It is completely normal. But for those of you who wish that you could help and don't really know how to, well, just turn down your power consumption over the course of the evening hours, because that will actually give the utility companies a little bit more relief so that they can weather the storm just like everybody else. And now you amateur radio operators and emergency responders, well, right now things are really tough on Earth's day side. We are sitting at a very severe noise level, and that's because of region 3664 firing off just a slew of flares and radio bursts, even at high levels up to the gigahertz range. So just hang in there because this region will be disappearing in about 3 days, and likely that noise floor is going to drop quite a bit, and you'll just be like, whew, thank goodness. But for those of you who are working the disaster areas and the tornado watches, just understand that the day side may not be the best place to work, so you can work on the night side until those solar storms hit. But when the solar storms hit, the night side's not going to be much better either. So you're really going to need to pay close attention to the space weather and try to work as best as you can. And now you GPS users, same thing. If you're doing search and rescue, just realize your GPS reception may not be all that good either on Earth's day side or on the night side, even especially when those solar storms come, especially near aurora. So be very vigilant and careful as you fly, and also remember to calibrate your magnetometers often. I'm Tamitha Sko, the Space Weather Woman. Thank you for watching.
You are being tuned to VK3EKH, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast coming to you from the studios of VK3CSJ in Narre Warren South.
Dear. That was another one. Thanks, Rolf. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Bit of a horse race. It was. Thanks, Tamitha, for that extended news for the recent solar activity that we had last weekend. So, as you can see, certainly, again, there was a lot of activity, and I think Tamitha certainly covered the reasons why we had so much intense aurora last weekend. So even though there were in this case, as Tamitha reports, up to 7 wave fronts, so to speak. I guess that is a little on a rare side. But I don't doubt that we'll have something similar occur in the next 12 months. Certainly, as we reach solar maxima, there's bound to be much more coronal mass ejections occurring. So there's bound to be a lot more happening for sure. So there it is. Thanks, Tamitha, for that, as I say, extended session. I hope there was not too many people that didn't mind that. All right, you're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3EKH, as the little Indian friend there said. I don't know who it was. I think it's a computer-generated one, that one. Okay, we've got just a couple of minutes before I decide to conclude. Was there anything else that I was going to bring up? There were a few other little things here. Yeah, how big is that article? Oh, okay. In regards to exoplanet, it seems that we have found an Earth-sized exoplanet named Speculus-3b. It's SPECULOOS, Speculus, I guess. The planet is likely tidally locked, meaning that one side always faces the sun while the other is shrouded in darkness. An international team of astronomers has discovered exoplanet Speculus-3b and its ultra-cool red dwarf star some 55 light-years away from Earth. Despite being the size of the Earth, the newly discovered exoplanet could not be more different from our home planet. According to the NASA News release from May 15, the terrestrial world is baked by high levels of radiation from its sun. Probably leaving the planet without an atmosphere, it orbits its star in 17 hours as opposed to our year. And the planet is likely tidally locked, meaning that one side always faces the sun while the other side is shrouded in darkness. The red dwarf star is also very different from our own sun. The Jupiter-sized Speculus 3 was discovered to be 4,760 degrees Fahrenheit or 2,627 degrees Celsius, several thousand degrees cooler than the Sun and much dimmer as well. The discovery of this exoplanet comes from the Belgium-based Speculus, or Search for Planets Eclipsing Ultra-Cool Stars. There it goes. Acronyms, I tell you. It's the Search for Planets Eclipsing Ultra-Cool Stars project, an international network of telescopes in search for dim stars in our galaxy and the rocky planets that orbit them. The goal is to identify dozens of planetary systems and even more red dwarfs, in the hope of finding habitable exoplanets and signs of life. The name of the mission is to play on words with the Belgian Specular's cookies, which fans of Traders Joe may recognise too, whatever that means. The data from Specular's 3B discovery could lead to other research using James Webb Space Telescope. According to the release, its planetary composition and location are subject to more research. We're making great strides in our study of planets orbiting other stars. We have now reached the stage where we can detect and study Earth-sized exoplanets in detail. The next step will be to determine whether any of them are habitable or even inhabited, said Stephen Beale Howell, one of the planet's discoverers at NASA's Ames Research Center in the release. So there we are, and now we'll just go to the current spaceweather.com, and I shall bring up the latest sun shot. This is the current disk of the sun for those watching the TV and YouTube, which are all still hanging in there. So that's the current view of the sun, if you were able to look at it directly with your own eyes, which you mustn't do. Solar wind the solar wind is currently at 392.1 kilometers per second at a density of 6.64 protons per cubic centimeter. The sunspot number is currently 208. The radio sun is currently at 207 solar flux units, measured at a wavelength of 10.7 centimeters. The planetary K index is 2. Considered quiet. The 24-hour max KP index figure is 4.67, which is considered unsettled. The current auroral glow over the over Antarctica, and I didn't bring it across. Hang on a sec. Let me just pick that up out of the file, and I shall show you. I think this is it. I copy that one. So there it is. Yep, that's it. So that's the current auroral glow for those watching the visions. So as you can see, there's not much in the way of any auroral activity unless you were down at Antarctica. So it's very quiet, definitely very quiet. Okay, so any articles in astronomy.com? Don't know if I shall read that one out. There's the main report in today's spaceweather.com covers a rare South Pacific auroras confirmed great storm, and this is where I got that picture before I showed, which is this one here. That comes from spaceweather.com. This article here, but just quickly, on the South Pacific island of New Caledonia, no one expects to see auroras ever, full stop. Situated about halfway between Tonga and Australia, the cigar-shaped island is too close to the equator for northern or southern lights. Yet on May 10, 2024, this happened. And there it is. There's the glow. They say here that I have rarely been so happy when taking a photo, says Federica Desmulins, who photographed the display from Bol-Luparis in the island's South Province. He says, I could see the red colour of the auroras with my naked eye. According to the New Caledonian Astronomy Society, these photos are the first for this territory. The auroral visibility from New Caledonia is really unique and extremely valuable. Says a researcher from Japan's university, Nagara University. As far as we know, the last time skywatchers saw auroras in the area were during the Carrington event of September 1859, when auroras were sighted from a ship in the Coral Sea. Yeah, so there it is. Like I say, last week was very, very special. There is another chart here. Let me see if I can bring that up. I know I've got that here for those watching TV. It's not a very clear chart. It's a bit blurred. But what we're talking about here is 500 years of space weather storms with aurora visible at the equator ward of 30 degrees magnetic latitude. So, yeah, so you're looking at 500 years of weather storms. I'm going back to 1520. If you want to see that, for those not watching the visions, it's on, like I say, it's on spaceweather.com right now. So if you type in spaceweather.com, you'll see this chart, 500 years of space weather storms with aurora visible at or equator ward of 30 degrees magnetic. Okay, I think that's about all to report there. NOAA forecasts that there's a Class M, a 40% chance of Class M flare activity in the next 24 hours and 10% chance of Class X flaring in the 24 hours. So again, things are potentially active. As of the 17th of May 2024, there are 2,349 potentially hazardous asteroids. So we have to look out for them too. All right, it's 6 past the hour, so I had a couple of more articles there, but I'll hold those over to next week. I just want to thank the folks that did send me emails. Steve, VK3SPX, acknowledging the signal report. Thank you, dear sir. Mr. HK, thank you for your signal report and the audio aspect of it as well, although I think the Tamitha one might have been a little bit harsh. Paul, Mr. ZT, thank you very much for your report, and I will follow up on your information request for Discord. I've actually asked Richard VK3VRS to send an email on that one, on how to connect to the Discord channel. In a nutshell, as far as I know, just type in Discord in the search engine and download Discord, which will enable you to connect to the Discord server. Then looking for our chat room, it really is as simple as typing in astronomy chat room. As far as I know, that's the name of where everybody comes to for this particular session on a Friday night. Astronomy chat room. And below where it says astronomy chat room is a link to a video stream that Richard is providing, but I've requested Richard to send you information on that, and I think it's a link as well that can be provided as well, which will help you as well. Yes, and Wayne, thank you, sir. Wayne, your picture is just beautiful. Wayne's taken a fantastic photograph of the aurora. It is one of the best that I've seen so far, encapsulating some great colours. So I don't doubt what you're saying there about the colours, being mesmerised by it. So, but that's a fantastic picture, mate. That's excellent stuff. Thanks, Bob, Mr. AZN, for the signal report as well. Not a problem in catching up as well. So thanks. That's the emails that have come through, and of course on Discord we had, where are we? Lost it. There we are. Where are we? Richard, Kim, VK5FUSC, Richard again, Kim again, Steve, VK3SPX, Cassiopeia, Nebs, and Steve's solar picture as well, Mr. SPX. A fantastic picture there too, Steve. That's excellent with your dome in the foreground there. Foreground. Great pictures coming through. It was just sensational, wasn't it? All right, now let's turn the chair towards the receiver, the transceiver for our 80-meter callback, so to speak. And let me just select a clear page that I can use. In fact, I think, here's a clear one. And alright, just bear with me. Alright, now I can pipe the audio through to the repeater and the YouTube stream, so audio pickup via the streams and the repeater should be heard beautifully well. So that's not a problem. I didn't check that last week, actually. I was going to check my YouTube feed from last week to see how well it came across, but I didn't get around to doing it, but I think it should be okay. This is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, listening on 3541 for any stations wishing to check in.
VK3 Golf Victor Kilowatt 3 Delta X-ray. VK3 Hong Kong. VK3 SPX.
VK3 Golf Oscar Delta.
VK5 Whiskey Alpha. VK3 Echo Bravo.
Okay. Now, I forgot to unmute my channel. Okay, there was a station that doubled at the beginning there, so I'm not sure whether you tried again or not, but we'll see how it goes. We've got VK3GL, VK3DX. So I missed the station that came up underneath Graham. VK3GL, VK3DX, VK3HK, VK3SPX, VK3GOD, VK5WA, and VK3EB. Is there any other stations there?
VK3 AOB listening. VK3JR.
All right, hang on a sec. Yep. VK3JR and VK3KAB, was it?
No, AOB Alpha.
Oh.
Oscar Bravo, another old boozer.
G'day, Britt. Oh, dear. All right, no worries. We seem to trip over your call sign when you come up. All right, to the top, VK3GL. G'day, Graham. VK3EKH.
Yes, g'day there, Clint. VK3EKH in the group, VK3GL. And some good signals there on everyone who checked in this evening. Some ripper signals. So the band's not in too bad a shape, although it is a little bit noisier than normal. A lot more, well, certainly this way, a lot more static crashes from some of the rain front that's gone through. Anyway, pleasant good evening to you there, Clint. Your signal is your usual 30 over 9 also this evening, so the quality of the broadcast has been excellent on 80 metres, and also what I listened to and watched on the YouTube stream whilst at work. It's a bit quiet tonight, which has provided me the opportunity to have take in a fair amount of your broadcast tonight. All very good and noted on Aurora. I thought that would feature prominently in tonight's broadcast. And I think you're aware, Clint, that Alison and I had been out for a drive that night, and we went to various locations to have a look, and the best location we actually found where we could actually see it with the naked eye quite okay was south of Bunyip, a couple of kilometres south of Bunyip, where it was very dark, and we could certainly see all of the beams of light up into the sky. Wasn't much colour to it with the naked eye, but with the camera it wasn't too bad, mind you. Here we were trying to fiddle with our mobile phones to see whether or not we could alter the exposure levels and so on the phone. We didn't have too much luck, unfortunately, with that. So I'll have to wait another 40 years or so for another one to come along and make sure that I'm equipped with a camera that's got sufficient long exposure to get some really good photographs. But what we did see from what people had posted on the internet from all over the place was certainly some wonderful photos, plenty of colour, and it was absolutely fantastic to see all of that. Yeah, absolutely excellent stuff. I guess the next broadcast or the next the version of space weather that Tamitha puts together will probably feature a fair collage of photographs that have been taken from all over the world, no doubt. That she's probably had lots of avid enthusiasts send her pictures from all over the place of what was seen last Saturday night anyway, or into Sunday. It seemed to last a long time. I actually had a look. I think it was about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd had a look at the the predictions and that, and I think the KP index was up at around 12. I'd never seen it like that. I think at night time it was around about 9. But earlier in the day, of course, during the day, it was up at 12, and the crown around the bottom of the Earth was quite predominantly red, which again I'd never seen before. So with all of that in mind, I thought it was going to be a pretty good night, and it turned out to be just exactly that. Certainly one out of the box. Now it got to me thinking too. And I don't know whether or not anyone else has ever thought about it, but I know Tamitha talks about, radio operators, aviators, and GPS users, and so on. And I guess the aviation, it would have ways of being able to correct and allow for errors with GPS caused by such events. But I wonder whether or not Elon Musk has thought about that with these self-drive Teslas and so on and so forth. I note that there was an article on TV recently where they were talking about how many accidents have been caused by these self-drive vehicles. And I wonder whether or not in future, as we go more self-drive and more electric, whether they'll be issuing warnings to say don't drive your car. Or you can't drive on autopilot because you're likely to collide with something. Food for thought. All right, thanks again for the broadcast, Clint. And as I said, good signal all round and very informative. VK3EKH, this is VK3GL.
Thanks, Graham. VK3GL. VK3EKH, making sure my levels aren't too high for YouTube. And I've got my third camera working. It was the DC plug had fallen out of the socket, so we now do have the third camera up and running again. For those watching TV, my producer of a cat is in shot. She's sleeping in the chair just behind me there. Kiska! Yep, she's asleep. Thanks, Graham, for the report. And yes, look, you have to. I think if you were in a particularly dark sky location and the right location, really, the aurora by eye would have been quite spectacular. Certainly for me here in Narre South, with all the street lights, the pinky magenta glowy colour in the sky was well overhead and fairly obvious, and like I said, you could actually see it shifting in real time, but again it was the camera, the mobile phone, that really picked up those colours without a problem. The Samsung phone has a feature called night shot, I think it is. So that really worked. Although, like I said, at first when I had the camera up in the sky, I couldn't see on the screen. I could see stars. It was picking up stars really well, but not the colour side of it. But it wasn't until I reviewed the pictures that all the colours just popped out. So it was quite good. But anyway, it sounds like you had a nice time anyway with Elle and that's that's what it's all about too. Some people have asked me what would it be like looking at that through a telescope. Well, the aurora is something that you don't really use a telescope for. Telescopes concentrate on a very small part of the sky. even binoculars probably wouldn't have been any value. Interesting thought, but I might try a pair of binoculars next time, just out of curiosity. But really, the aurora covers such a wide part of the sky, so your normal eyes is perfectly good, and then a digital camera is the next thing to have in hand. Anyway, all right, we've got a few folks tonight, so we'll move along. But thanks, Gray, and we'll try and catch up with you perhaps over the weekend. Across to you there, Greg, VK3 Delta X-Ray, VK3 EKH.
Yeah, VK3 EKH, VK3 Delta X-Ray. Yeah, good on you, Clint. Interesting broadcast. And the auroras, yeah, very interesting time. I failed this. I didn't see it. I saw plenty of photographs. Anyway, when I did go to look on Sunday there, I'd missed it all. But it was quite brilliant there. The activity here and around Warrnambool along the coast at different locations there, where people had gone to see it going on. And good evening to everyone else there that's on there too. Interesting in Graham's comments about the cars there and what might happen. All good. What I was going to comment there, Clint, was the karting event in 1859. What level was? Did they have a level on that? Like this they called it it was G5. I'm wondering what that was. If you know there, you probably will know, Clint. But yeah, I watched a lot of stuff about that, but I can't remember whether it was G5 or whether they were using that technology or that term at that time, or whether that's just in recent times. Yeah, terrific signal, Clint. All signals are good tonight. You're well up there, 20-30 over, really peaking out, and all good. Okay, that's all my comments for the night there, Clint. Thanks for running it. You do a great job each week. VK3 EKH, VK3 Delta X-Ray, Greg in Warrnambool.
Oops, that's it. Yep, no worries, Greg. Make sure that's not too loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. VK3 Delta X-Ray, VK3 EKH returning. Yeah, look, there's a lot of people that really didn't get to see the solar show last week, and that includes many astronomers that were otherwise tied up. So yes, like I say, I'm fairly certain it will happen all again fairly soon, because we're still coming up to the peak of solar cycle 25. Yes, the Carrington event. I'm not 100% sure of the scale of the magnitude. I'm just having a quick scan of an article that I had here, and it was solar cycle 10, and yes, there's not really picking up any particular classification right now, but I will follow up with that for next week, if you like, and a little bit more, because occasionally I have mentioned the Carrington event, and it often gets mentioned because of that it was a fairly intense geomagnetic storm at the time, which did cause quite a few issues with the induced voltages into the grid system, which caused blackouts, and for those telegraph operators at the time, there was apparently arcing across the key type thing. So it's pretty intense, isn't it? Yeah, but I don't believe the current activity of last weekend was of the same level as that Carrington event, interestingly enough. So I know what you're saying. Certainly, the Carrington event was a fairly large event for sure. Anyway, we'll look into that one and see what we can bring up. I'm still quickly scanning this article. There's a lot of text there, but yeah. All right. Okay, thanks, Greg. Good signal from you too as well, and all being recorded on the YouTube stream, which hasn't fallen over, which is really good. Next on the list is Mr. HK, probably aching to close his eyes and go to sleep. VK3HK, VK3EKH.
You hear before you the HK signal from the shack, not from bed, no, not bed mobile, shack. And there it is, yeah, very snap crackle pop tonight, that's for sure. There's a big front off. If you drew a line straight out into the Tasman from Canberra, that's where it is. And boy, it's very, very active. Good evening, Brett, and all others. Pardon me. Yeah, well received. Enjoyed the Tamatha thing. You were making apologies for it. I thought it was okay. Yeah, it was a bit of history, but it was interesting to see how accurate or inaccurate it was, and it wasn't too bad at all. Okie dokie, lots of people there. Straight back to you, Clinty. By the way, no 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. this morning, you got it? You look like you could do with a sleep. VK3EKH. This is VK3HK.
I wish I could just turn off. Yeah, I mean, just. I know you probably haven't watched an episode of Star Trek, so you wouldn't know what I'm about to say. But in Star Trek Next Generation, they have an android called Data, and Data has the ability of shutting down. Although, actually, I'm getting confused with something else now, and you probably have seen this one. Star Wars 3CPO has the ability to shut down. So that's what I was thinking of. But Data can be turned off, but 3CPO has this ability to shut down. So I just wish I could do that. Just turn off for 8 hours and recover. I can't sleep in. Even if I go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm still up at 7 o'clock. Well, not really at 7 o'clock if I don't have to be up. But usually by 9 o'clock I'll be surfacing to feed the cats and to visit the loo, and then that's it. I'm up. So unless I'm particularly tired, anyway, and there's a very good possibility that I won't get to bed till 3 o'clock this morning too. But I'll try not to do that. Anyway, we'll see. But we'll be on the coffee break net as it is on a Saturday morning. So I'll say good day to Gus and anybody else that rolls up, I suppose. But I'll turn up there. Thanks, Steve. And look, if you appreciated Tamatha, because I know that you're a little bit critical of Tamatha last time. So this was 20 minutes of Tamatha. So if you felt that was good enough, I'm happy to hear that. But yeah, like I said, I only played it because of the historic aspect to her report in regards to such an event last week. That's all it was for. I don't think... Usually when she releases her reports, it's over the weekend, so it's past this event here, Friday night. So I can only really play her solo reports like next Friday, which is, generally a little bit out of date. So there it is. Anyway, thanks, mate. Thanks for the report. Excellent. Across to Robert, VK3GOD, VK3EKH.
VK3EKH, VK3GOD. Good broadcast tonight. Thank you for running it. You at 59 plus 30. Good signal. That's good signal. Bit of snap, crackle and pop, as was said. I gathered the Tasman that's causing some lightning crashes, but other than that, all very good. Have a good evening, everyone. VK3EKH, VK3GOD.
Thanks, Gordon. Robert. VK3GOD, VK3EKH. Not a problem, dear sir. Your excuse me, signals are on a little bit on the weak side. The the pops crack the what is it? The snack popple. Oh, never mind. Snack crack and popples. I haven't got that right. Anyway, the lightning crashes is the more correct term. Are definitely strong tonight. As Steve points out, it's there's certainly some storm activity occurring somewhere. So she's making a mess of 80 metres. That's for sure. Never mind. Thanks, Robert, for checking in. Much appreciated. Thanks for the comment. Dallas, VK5 Whiskey Alpha. Hope you're hearing us okay. VK3 EKH.
G'day Clint, VK5 WA and everybody else. Here's some big signals tonight. So a bit of QSP happening in now, between a 9 and 10 over. So it's it's a bit. The broadcast was excellent. Tuned into the YouTube. That was good. I haven't been on there very much. Sometimes I have trouble with that, but I've figured that out now. And good on all of the info. And I won't hold it for your list as long. Thanks again. I'll catch you next time, hopefully. VK5WA.
No problem. Dallas, VK5 Whiskey Alpha, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, returning with VK3 CSJ on the microphone. Not a problem at all. You're about 10, peaking 5 to 10 over 9, and getting over the crackle pops and whatever. Very well. So thanks, Dallas. Glad to see that you got the YouTube or the internet side of things sorted out. I'm very glad to say that the YouTube stream has not fallen over tonight. So it's been very good indeed. It's been behaving itself nicely. Thanks, Dallas. Now we go to another Dallas, I believe. VK3 Echo Bravo. VK3 EKH. Go ahead.
VK3 EKH, VK3 EB. Gee, that was a bit weird. I thought for a moment there I had another call sign. So, yes, good evening to everybody. And Clint, that was a great presentation. I normally listen to you on 80 metres, but when you mentioned YouTube, I didn't realise you were YouTube streaming. So I did a bit of a search and found you there on YouTube with all those pictures, which of course is a lot better than just the audio. And I didn't have the static crashes on YouTube. You're a good signal on 80, but it's a bit noisy up in Shepparton. And good day to Steve as well, HK. I'll keep it brief. Tabitha, I hadn't seen Tabitha before, so talking 100 miles an hour there, I didn't realise that was interesting space weather. So science all in itself. I did try to look at the aurora up here in Shepparton, but I left it too late. Just tried it on the Sunday. Could see the lights of Melbourne. Nice clear night up here on the Sunday, but plenty of stars, but no aurora. Not that I could see anyway. EKH. I keep thinking CSJ. VK3EB. Shepparton, clear.
Oops, sorry, wind my fader up. Talking away, no audio. VK3EB, VK3 EKH returning. Excellent stuff. Good to hear you. Thanks, Dallas, for checking in. And my feed to the TV repeater fell over again, or not me, but the repeater fell over again. But I've managed to get it going again. That those tones that I send to activate it seems to work very well. So thanks, Ian, if you're watching, listening. Anyway, that's another thing. Yeah, so I'm glad that you're also picking up on YouTube. Yeah, look, excuse me, the YouTube stream is really just to provide a way for people to be able to see the visions, because the every article that I read generally has some photograph or imagery or GIF file or something rather associated with it, and I know that I run the transmission through the Melbourne television repeater. But since I've been doing this broadcast on Friday nights, I thought, well, why not run a YouTube stream as well to supplement the repeater side of things. So it seems to work, but occasionally RF gets into the Telstra modem and it blocks it out. It falls over, and I have to wait a while for that to reboot. But it's been good tonight, so I'm glad that folks watching have been able to hang in there. I've been catching up with a little bit of my YouTube stuff too, and it's a bit of a struggle to look at myself, but but I'm picking up on little things that I need to improve on. So yeah, anyway, that's another story. All right, thanks, Dallas. And again, we're here at we kick off at 10 o'clock every Friday for about an hour or so, and yep, it's all on behalf of the Astronomical Society of Victoria. Just type in VK3 EKH in the QRZ.com page for more information about the station and general stuff if you need to know. Thank you, Dallas. It's now across to Frank, VK3 Juliet Radio, VK3 EKH.
3EKH, PK3JR. Your signal's going down a bit here now, Clint. Hope you